What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by no co-host today. In a little bit of a flux, have a flight to catch in a couple of hours, but I wanted to get on here and quickly give you guys an update on the New York Giants and their top 30 visits. Essentially, in today's episode, I'm just going to run through each of the so far reported top 30 visits that the Giants have had or are going to have, and kind of give my take on each of these players a little briefly and just discuss all the different guys that they're having in. But first and foremost, I think it's worth noting and mentioning that today the Giants are having two players in for top 30 visits on the same day, which is a little bit unique, not something that you typically see, but they're having both Abdul Carter in and Jayden Milroe today, Thursday, April 10th, on top 30 visits. And on top of that, the additional news here for Abdul Carter is not only is he meeting with the Giants today, but also tomorrow. This is a 2-day meeting with Abdul Carter, indicating that the Giants really are serious about potentially drafting him number 3 overall. And also keep in mind, last weekend, the Giants had Abdul Carter meet with Brian Dable and grab breakfast with him. So this is now their third formal meeting, fourth if you're including the fact that they met privately at his pro day, and I imagine they might have met at the combine as well. So this could be potentially 5 total meetings between the New York Giants and Abdul Carter. So if you're looking at the draft board and you're assuming that Hunter's going 2 after Cam Ward goes 1, and that the Giants don't want to draft Shedeur Sanders at 3, all signs are currently pointing towards Abdul Carter being the number 3 overall pick in the draft to the New York Giants. Now, what does that mean for them? In terms of fitting him on a defensive line with Kayvon and Burns? Well, of course, we've discussed that numerous times on this channel, and we'll continue to discuss it in lead up to the draft and especially afterwards if they draft Carter. But just as a baseline, I'm not concerned. I think there are ways to get all these guys on the field at once and just create a nasty defensive line that harkens back to the good old days for the New York Giants. So I think you guys know my preference is Travis Hunter, but it doesn't sound like Hunter will be available at number 3. If he is, that would personally be my pick, but I can't even call this a consolation prize. This is still a slam dunk if the Giants land Abdul Carter, a premier pass rusher, as good as you can get in the top 3 of the draft, who absolutely does liken himself to Micah Parsons. So that's the update on Abdul Carter. Giants have already met with him several times. They're meeting with him for an extended 2-day period today and tomorrow. And then he's got some other meetings coming up with the Patriots. But that's pretty much going to wrap up the Giants' analysis on Carter as they continue to get closer to making a decision on the number 3 overall pick. So the other half of this being Jayden Milroe. Now, obviously, yesterday on the live stream with Alex and I, we discussed Milroe at length. You guys had a lot of great questions about Milroe, so we talked about him for the majority of yesterday's over hour-long show. If you want more on Milroe, I would suggest that you go over to that live stream that we had yesterday because you'll get my take and Alex's at the same time. But Jayden Milroe is indeed meeting with the New York Giants today. He is one of their top 30 visits. But who else is on this top 30 visit list? Because these are the 2 guys that you all already knew were on the top 30 visit list. I wanted to bring them up again just because I think it's important to emphasize how many times the Giants have met with Carter, and because I think that it is also important that Jayden Milroe is going into a lot of meetings this week with teams that are picking not only in the first round, obviously, but top 10 teams and some teams that are quarterback needy towards the second half of the first round. He did accept that combine invitation, so potentially he could wind up going in the first round of this year's draft. So keep an eye on Jayden Milroe. Now, other players that the Giants are meeting with. Marcus Mbao, the Purdue offensive lineman. He's a 6'4", 304-pound tackle. He's a pretty interesting prospect, somebody that the Giants would likely target on day 2 of the NFL draft. I've done a few mock drafts where I've had Mbao. I've read a lot of mock drafts where they mock Mbao to the Giants. He's a powerful guy. He can play right tackle. This would be more so a guy that I think the Giants draft. They stash behind Jermaine Illuminor likely for a year, but with Illuminor being in the final year of his contract, if Mbao progresses, he could take over that starting job next year. And in the meanwhile, he could probably fill in at guard/tackle wherever there might be or might not be an injury. So Marcus Mbao is a player that the Giants have met with. I would keep an eye on him on day 2 of the draft, but we shall see where he ultimately plays in the NFL. So another player is Joshua Farmer, a defensive tackle out of Florida State. I actually read a mock draft this morning from CBS Sports that had Farmer going to the Giants at the top of the 3rd round, number 65 overall. The Florida State product is 6'3", 305 pounds with 35-inch arms. And he is obviously coming from a defensive line that has produced a wealth of talent over the last few years. Brian Burns being an FSU alum, that's something to keep an eye on, that connection. But also more recently, Jared Verse and Braden Fisk coming out of that FSU program and having a major impact immediately with their NFL teams. Maybe you could see something similar with Joshua Farmer. Again, a big 305-pound defensive lineman. We know that the Giants are going to draft a defensive tackle at some point in this year's draft. It's just a matter of when, and it could end up being in the third round if, say, an Mbao goes in the second. Maybe in the third round, number 65, you could see Joshua Farmer out of FSU. Keep an eye on him. Now, another player that the Giants have met with is Quinshon Judkins, the running back out of Ohio State. They've actually met with quite a number of running backs. I know a lot of Giants fans love Tyrone Tracy Jr., so do I, but Tyrone Tracy Jr. is not going to prevent the Giants from drafting another running back. They need more playmaking talent in this offense. Obviously, this unit finished 31st in the NFL last season. They need to get some more playmakers out there. And I think a two-pronged running back attack is the way to go when you're looking around the league and you're seeing some of these best offenses. They've got dominant rushing attacks now. It used to be that you wanted as many receivers and you wanted to air the ball out over the last 5 years or so. I would say that was the mantra. But now we're seeing a little bit of a shift. We are seeing run-heavy teams like the Eagles, the Lions, the Commanders find a lot of success at the top of the league. So Judkins out of Ohio State, he's an explosive running back. He's been compared to guys like Joe Mixon and Kareem Hunt before for what he provides as well coming out of the backfield as a receiver. He's 220 pounds, 6 feet tall. He's got a lot of power and, of course, was part of that running back by committee on Ohio State's offense that just won the national championship. Now, another player that the Giants had a visit with was Ollie Gordon out of Oklahoma State. He's a little bit of a different running back. This is a bruiser. He's 6'1", 226. This is a guy who wants to punch you in the mouth. He had over 1,700 rushing yards last season, and he also did contribute with 330 yards and 1 receiving touchdown. But 1,700 rushing yards, 21 rushing touchdowns. When you're looking at Tyrone Tracy as being more of an elusive one cut back, make a break, and then boom, he's off to the races. Ollie Gordon is kind of the opposite. So you can get in fire and ice basically here, where you've got the speed and agility with Tracy, and then you've got the power and strength with Ollie Gordon. So he's a player that I would keep an eye on the Giants have met with. Again, just as a reminder in the middle of this video right now, the Giants meeting with all of these players is significant because for the most part, the overwhelming majority of the players that they do draft, they've met with prior. They don't usually like to draft players that they haven't had personal one-on-one meetings with. So again, it's worth keeping an eye on all of these guys. And another one that I've been keeping an eye on for a while here is Miami tight end Elijah Arroyo. I've been telling you guys, keep an eye on him because the New York Giants sent, yes, a contingent to the Miami Pro Day, and everybody made a big deal. They had the offensive coordinator, the quarterback's coach. Man, they really want Cam Ward. Can they make the trade up to get him? And I said, hey, Tim Kelly is there. That's the Giants tight ends coach. Why is nobody reporting on that other than me? Because I've mentioned it as often as I can. The Giants sending their tight ends coach to Miami is significant. They were clearly keeping a close eye on Arroyo. And shortly after, sometime this week, they had him in for a top 30 visit. So I think that their interest in Arroyo is legitimate. If he's there at good value, maybe in the third or fourth round, I could totally see the Giants pairing him with Theo Johnson. The Giants don't seem to believe too much in Daniel Bellinger. It's a shame because I thought he flashed a lot of promise as a rookie. But if they're trying to get some more dynamic, vertical receiving threats in that tight end room, Arroyo and Johnson would be a very nice 1-2 punch from the tight ends. So another player that the Giants had in, this was a local visit with Jalen Reed out of Penn State, high IQ football player who could be a safety that they target on day 3 of the draft. This is not a player that I would expect the Giants to target early. This is more round 4 or later. I could see Jalen Reed being a depth piece in their secondary. And we did talk yesterday on the live stream about Tyler Shuck, the Louisville quarterback that the Giants are bringing in. Obviously, I gave my take on him. I'm not a fan. This is a day 3 pick to me who is getting mocked oftentimes on day 2 of the draft, and I don't think the value is there. He's a 26-year-old rookie with an extensive injury history. He is not who I want the New York Giants to draft as their developmental quarterback. But there are some tools and traits that you like with him. He's got some mobility to his game. He's got a real strong arm, and he's built like the archetypical NFL quarterback. So maybe Tyler Shuck is the sleeper that I'm sleeping on potentially, but I'm going to stay asleep here because I don't think the Giants are the team that should be taking a chance on a developmental 26-year-old at the quarterback position with an injury history. Another player that the Giants had in, again, we mentioned this guy on the live stream yesterday, Caleb Johnson out of Iowa. And I would keep a close eye on Johnson for one reason in particular. Coming out of Iowa, he could reunite with his former running backs coach here with the New York Giants. The Giants did make a change at running backs coach this offseason, bringing in Ladell Betts as their new RB coach. Ladell Betts was formerly, for the last 3 or 4 years, the running backs coach over at Iowa. So Caleb Johnson could potentially pair back up with his former coach if the Giants were to draft him. He had over 1,500 yards and 21 touchdowns last season, which led the Big Ten in both categories, and his 1,537 rushing yards set a single-season Iowa record. So a really productive back, a very good player. I like him a lot. And again, I've already mentioned 3 running backs so far that the Giants have had in for meetings. They're doing their due diligence. It's very clear that they probably don't believe in Singletary or view him as a long-term player and would really like to get a complimentary piece in here alongside Tyrone Tracy Jr. So outside of that, Shedeur Sanders is the last player that I'll mention. The Giants have met with him. I don't know if they had him in specifically for a top 30 visit in their facilities just yet. They might have. If not, they will. And they will for Travis Hunter as well. You can bet on that. So this is the list reportedly from Art Stapleton of North Jersey. Shout out to him for compiling all of these players in one article. Very helpful. Thank you, Art. That's the list so far, though. And again, it's a top 30 list. So I definitely didn't go through 30 names. Expect a lot more names to be added here over the next 2 weeks. It's Thursday, April 10th. So we are officially 2 weeks away from the start of the NFL draft. And I can't wait. Make sure you guys are tuning into the channel for more updates like this, and also tune in on draft night. I'll be live for the entirety of the first round for all 32 picks. I will be live and a little bit before the first round kicks off. So make sure you guys leave a like if you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, I'll catch you all on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.
Perfect.